What's going on, man? It's your big brother K-Rino, and y'all are tuned in again to K-Rino Radio YouTube edition, man. And look, man, this brother I got with me tonight is I always just in the recent couple of years that I've really been acquainted with him, man. When I look back at it in hindsight, I just feel like he been under the radar for a long time, but he been on the scene for a long time. He's finally starting to emerge and get the props that he deserves. And he's a producer, he's a DJ. He's a podcast host. In my opinion, he's a Houston historian, and he's doing a lot for the city, man. And I want y'all to I'm introducing to some and presenting to others, my brother, Mr. Donnie Houston. How you doing, family?
K-Rino, man, it's an honor, man. I appreciate you for having me on the show, man.
Oh man, it's great to have you, man. Look, I told you the other day when we talked, I said, man, you be interviewing everybody else. It's time somebody interviewed you, and we got to get to know who Donnie Houston is, man. Tell us about your origins in the music business, what got you started, the aspects of it, DJing. Tell us how that bug bit you and you got started in this, man.
Man, it started it started really with my older sister. You know what I'm saying? My older sister, she's about 15 years older than me. She's in high school in the 80s. She graduated high school in 1988, just to kind of put a time frame, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like 2, 3, 4 years old up in that area, and I'm like her little brother. She's taking me around. She's a head majorette at Lamar, and I'm going to practice with her. I'm going to games. I'm going everywhere, and she's just playing Run DMC, LL Cool J, Special Ed, Big Daddy Kane, Salt and Pepper, MC Light. You know what I'm saying? Like anything that was going on in that era, it was just playing, and it wasn't necessarily like she ain't know what she was doing to me. You know what I mean? She was just playing what she was into at that time, being a young high school girl. But at the same time, I'm just being like, just overwhelmed, you know what I'm saying? And just really fascinated with this whole rap music thing. And Run DMC was the first thing I remember. My first tape that I ever had was Run DMC Tougher Than Leather. And so I was born in 1984. They came out like 87, 88, somewhere up in there. So this is how young I was, you know what I'm saying? That was my first cassette tape, still got it. Oh. And I wanted to be like Run, but I wanted to do what Jam Master Jay was doing. You know what I'm saying? Like Run stood out to me. Like I was like, oh man, he's live. I like his personality and shit. But what Jam Master Jay was doing with them turntables, like I just remember being a kid and looking like, man, I want to do that. And I would study. I didn't know they were the cases at the time, but I was like, oh man, he got black cases. Spinderella got red cases. Yeah. I don't know if I want black or red cases. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm a kid, right? Just looking at, just breaking this whole thing down in my mind like that. And man, what happened? My sister goes off to college. She goes off to Emory, graduates high school, 1988. I'm left here. And mind you, at the same time, my mother, I'm getting infested with everything she's doing. Not necessarily from the hip hop side, but like she's playing me, her go to Sam Cooke. You know what I'm saying? So I'm getting Sam Cooke. I'm getting Otis Redding. I'm getting Gladys Knight, Aretha Franklin, Jackie Wilson. You know what I'm saying? Like anybody you can name from that era. Like I'm just as familiar as that at this time as I am with rap music. Now it's not appealing to me because I'm a kid. You know what I'm saying? It's my mom's music. That's not appealing to me. So we going on road trips. She's playing that. I'm in the back of my headphones, me and my little sister, I'm playing my Run DMC tape or my MC Hammer tape or whatever it was at the time. At the same time, though, not knowing, I'm learning all these songs word for word. So later on, when the sampling come along, I'm being able to recognize like, oh, this is such and such. This is whatever. Wow. I'm just a fan at this time, though, still a fan. And what happened, man? I was 15 years old, and I only knew one. I probably knew maybe one other person that was close to me that I could call that actually had turntables. That was my boy Robert Jefferson. He, matter of fact, Robert he didn't go to Sterling. He went to Lamar, but he was from around South Park though. They from around that area, and he took me in like an older brother. You know what I'm saying? He's like 10 or so years older than me, closer to my sister's age. But anyway, he had the turntables. After that, I didn't know anybody with turntables. So now I'm 15 years old, and my homeboy, DJ Star Skywalker, you know what I'm saying? Skywalker, what up, man? We're at church, and I just happened to walk in. It's a Saturday afternoon. I never forget it. There was some youth event going on, and I went to New Faith. And so we had the gym, and I don't know if y'all know you hoop, you know what I'm saying? Maybe you made your way to New Faith or not, but it's a notorious spot for hoopers too. So we had the gym. There was a stage in the gym, and on the stage is Julian, DJ Star at the time. Julian is up there DJing. He's like a couple years older than me, and he was always just a naturally, to me, I just feel like he was just like a cool kid. You know what I mean? Like you see kids that's old, you're like, oh man, that's a cool kid. You know what I mean? He ain't hoop or nothing like that. He was just a cool kid. And so he got these turntables now. And I'm like, oh shit, Julian cool ass got turntables. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me go over here and just see. So I was in love with basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like I had hoop dreams like everybody else. That's what I really want to do. At the same time, I love music, but I love basketball just as much. And we're going into the gym, and I bypass my usual go to the court, and I go to the stage. And I say, Julian, man, where did you get this? What's going on? You know what I mean? He's like, man, Mars Music. It's called DJ in the Box. It was DJ in the Box was made by Newmarket. It came with 2 turntables, some speakers, some little cheap headphones, a mixer, and then like a Led Zeppelin record or something random like that. You know what I'm saying? So I tell my mom that day I leave, I said, Mom, listen, I gotta have these turntables. I'm 15 years old, you know what I mean? We living in the hood, we in the Clark still, you know what I'm saying? Like single parent, you know what I'm saying? So it ain't like we got money like that. This is just me just on my mom, like my
out there, yeah.
Yeah, you know, so this is the beginning of the summer, I want to say. And she's like, well, son, you know, she ain't never give me a definite answer, but I was so adamant that I feel like she probably just kept that with her because at some point in the summer, like towards the end, she comes with the idea that we had a piano because my older sister played piano. Well, she's moved off to college. She ain't been home 10 years, whatever. The piano just in the house. She like, well, if I can sell this piano, I'll get you the turntable. Sell the piano, I get the turntables, 15 years old, right before I get ready to start my junior year. This is when I'm transferring. I went to Lamar 9th and 10th grade, Madison 11th. So that transition between 10th and 11th grade, when I'm getting ready to go to Madison from Lamar, that summer, I get these turntables.
Wow.
And so that's where that started.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, and to answer your question, yeah, I hoop in New Faith a million times. I actually play in a league in New Faith now. We play on Thursdays, so yeah, right. But yeah, man, that's fascinating, man, because I like to hear everybody's journey, and that's amazing journey. It was just something about the DJ aspect that just grasped you, you know. So you never had no interest in trying to rap or nothing like it was just straight to the DJing.
So okay, I tried to rap one time. They had a keyboard called a Casio Rapman keyboard. Anybody watching this, you can Google it. It had like a little fake turntable on there. You can make like beats. Not you couldn't make beats, like you could save them, but they had like little beats, built-in beats and stuff like that, you know, presets or whatever. And so I remember my sister had wrote me a rap one time. I still remember, you know what I'm saying, hella corny, you know what I'm saying? But that just wasn't really where I, you know, that wasn't my thing. Like, I don't know, I guess with my personality, because I was really more so kind of like on the shyer side, you know what I'm saying, unless I knew you. But I probably would come off as more of a shy kid. So I wasn't going to be the one to grab the mic and get in front of everybody and start rapping. But I can stand back here and play this music and get my, you know, and get it on. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that was it. This is me just older now processing it. Maybe that was it, why I gravitated to the turntables first. But no, I didn't really try to rap other than like songs. Like I can rap every song from my childhood, you know what I mean, to this day. But like write my own raps, nah, that was just never what I gravitated to.
What was your first DJ gig? When did you first do something as an official DJ where you say, okay, I feel like a DJ now, club, party, whatever?
See, that's not the DJ that I wanted to be. So when I wanted to DJ, like the screw thing had happened to me in middle school, you know what I'm saying? So like it goes for me as far as like DJs that really had an impression on me, Jam Master Jay, and then DJ Screw. Right. You know what I'm saying? I was, of course, older with DJ Screw, so I was able to understand things a little different and just hearing the techniques and things he was doing. And I done lost track. What was you asking me?
when was your first actual experience?
Okay, yeah. So my point was Screw. So with the Screw thing, like my first gigs was in the garage. You know what I'm saying? Me and my friends, like that's really what I want to do. I didn't really have aspirations to like really DJ parties. Like that was cool. But maybe that thought was just so far down the line, that wasn't really what I wanted to do. Like I went and got turntables and bought records that made sure that I had instrumentals on there so we could rap on them. Me and my friends, I rapped every now and then, but for the most part, my friends would rap and I would DJ. I didn't start DJing like in public. I had done the little things here and there, but I didn't become like a public DJ like that until I went to college.
Right. You know, it was cool because I think about a lot of guys who start off as DJing. And as I mentioned in the intro, that I know you have done production as well. A lot of DJs start off, a lot of producers start off as DJs because they have that ear, they understand the tempos, they understand what gets the people going, and then they make that transition over into production. How was your transition over into production? How did that come about? And who are some of the people that you produce for?
So transition to production. So I'm in college. I'm at Sam Houston, and I mean I'm in Role, but I ain't really going to class. Like, you know what I mean? I'm doing whatever. Right. And so in the midst of this though, I run into one of my homeboys, my boy Talib, who goes by Platinum Hands. He's produced for some people, Trey and a couple other people around here. But Platinum Hands was a DJ, and he had the studio in the apartment and all that, and you know, all this other type of stuff, running Fruity Loops and all that. And then one day, well, he stopped going to Sam Houston. He moves back to the H, and I go to his house. And it was a Saturday. I'll never forget it. Another Saturday, I walk in there, and he's in there playing. He got this keyboard. He's playing some beat I ain't never heard. I didn't know he had made this beat. It was a Triton, a Korg Triton. Yeah. And so I didn't really have an aspiration to make beats for real. Like, I thought beats were cool, but I didn't really, like, even when I was DJing, I didn't get turntables with the thought of like, okay, the next thing is gonna be producing. I just wanted to DJ. I wanted to scratch. I wanted to chop. I wanted to, you know what I mean? That's really that's all I wanted. That's all I was looking at the time. Yeah. I go to Talib's house and all of that changed. And even then, like him making the beat, the first beat he played, it was an original beat. And I'm not gonna say it wasn't a good beat, but it was an original beat. And like I told you, what my background was, my mom with the soul and, you know what I'm saying, my sister and all that. The next beat he played had a sample in it. I didn't know sampling, the turn, like all this other stuff. I didn't really know all the ins and outs. I just knew like, damn, this sounds like more so of the type of stuff I like to listen to. Right. And this is 2004 or 5, so Kanye is out. You know what I mean? I'm a huge Kanye fan. Like, I'm starting to kind of maybe get into production, but it still ain't really like real priority until I go to Talib's house and he tells me, oh yeah, this is sampling. I got this from this record, man. I took this and I did, and he's telling me, and I'm like, oh, I got to get a keyboard now. Right. And so maybe a year or so after that, I get a Yamaha Motif, 22 years old. I bought it for my 22nd birthday. Wow. And went to Guitar Center, got a Yamaha Motif 6 rather. And man, I got it. I was scared of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I didn't really, I played drums in middle school, and I was in a band in high school and stuff like that. But like, I hadn't really got down on nothing like that. It was just like, here's this big machine with all these buttons. I don't even know where to get started. You know what I mean? After turning it on, I pretty much ain't had nothing else for you. You know what I'm saying? So I was intimidated. My homeboy, Mike Mogul, shout out to Mike Mogul. He's a DJ around here. This is how I meet him. My homegirl tells me about her boy who has one who can show me how to use it. Mike Mogul comes over, shows me how to use it. I learn how to do it. Maybe 4 months later, I make a beat that I'm like, okay, I'm confident this is jam. Yeah. This is like January 1st, 2007.
So you just jumped in the water blindfolded. Like, I'm gonna get you actually bought the board before you even knew what to do with it, huh?
Before I knew how, and let me, because also my boy Pug too, you know what I'm saying, my boy GB Pug was another person that I met who was producing. He had been making beats since we was in like middle school, right? And so he was another person I met who was making beats, and it was just like a gumbo of just like all these different things that just gravitated me towards production.
You know what? But see, I think that's the cool way to do it, because it's like, I know people that they go to school to learn this, go to school to learn engineering and things of that nature, but and that's fine, but nothing beats that on the job, that trial and error, making those mistakes, figuring out for yourself, especially when you have the ear and the talent, because you know what you hear in your head, but you just got to figure out how to extract it from your head and put it into this device and then put it into the ears of the people. We got Donnie Houston with us, man, already heating it up and giving us some great history. Answer me this, because when you started producing and you said you kind of look like, now I know this is jamming, how did you get to the point where you started to get your beats out? And I don't want to say solicit them, but to get them out to where other artists were now like, hey man, what's up with these tracks and how can I get them? And who were some of the people you worked with early on?
Man, that process took a really long time, other than like little homeboys I had. I ain't gonna say little, because I mean, you know, I don't want to demean none of that. But like, other than like my personal friends that knew I made beats and rapped and had aspirations, like it was us trying to grind it out, but nobody really of any real significance. You know what I'm saying? Like when I was starting to learn music, this is like when I started making beats in the middle of Houston being on. So like Slim and all them, it just seems so far.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like even though it was so close, it just still seems so far away because they were huge as ever at this time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like it's crazy. I remember being in my room making this one particular beat, like, man, Slim will kill this. And I ain't meet him until maybe like 10 years later. You know what I mean? And we ended up doing a bunch of songs after that, but like I still remember that. You know what I'm saying? And so anyway, what happens is like at this time, like I told you, I started out with me and my guys in the neighborhood kind of doing our thing. This was the turntable. But when I transitioned over to making the beats and had the home studio and all that, some of those same guys were still doing music. And so we picked it up. And so that's when you get like me and Propane were doing some stuff for a while, like early on up until, man, like early 2000s when like that quote unquote new Houston movement came, you know what I'm saying? When you had the Propane, the D-Lows, Dante Higgins, and like this whole new crop of guys or whatever. That right there, that's kind of like what I would say is like the turning point. Because prior to that, like you had Slim and them, and then you had like, the way I describe the city is like, okay, you knew Slim and them was gonna be on because Swisher House was the underground movement. Right. You feel me? Like everybody was jamming here. If you was from Chicago or whatever, you may not know what it was, but it was understood. Like there's this thing called Swisher House. And then after all that went, it wasn't really any real movements. Like you had artists come out, but not like a crop of like, here's 10, 15 new guys, you know what I'm saying? That didn't happen. Right. So this whole time, I'm just trying to figure it out musically. Well, when 2010 happened with the whole new Houston thing, quote unquote, and MC Kane came with the Frontline tour, and this is how we meet D-Lo and all these other guys from around the city. So now we're starting to build that little community, you know what I'm saying? And that's when I kind of started getting like, okay, me and D-Lo doing songs now. Me and, Critical Rob Gillette doing some songs. Me and, this one doing some songs, whatever. And then things started taking off. A few years later, maybe around 2013, 14, maybe 14, still working with Propane. We ended up going on the road with Slim. Slim needed a DJ. I ended up DJing for both of them. Wow. This ended up transitioning into me being Slim's DJ on the road. Wow. So now it will be times where it's just me and him going, and me, him, Rico, or whatever. But as far as like, it's just now I'm Slim's DJ type of thing. Yeah. And we're moving like that. And man, still really wasn't nothing, man. And then I moved to Atlanta in 2015. Like just kind of really fed up. Like I felt like, man, I hadn't done all I could here. I felt like, I could be wrong, I don't know, but at the time, this is just where I was. Like, man, I done did everything I could. I'm still very much not acknowledged, like very much in the background, but very much not in the background based on like the work and my contributions. It's just ain't nobody saying my name. I ain't getting the recognition for the shit. So I'm like, I got to figure out a way to like not get lost in the sauce when it's all said and done. Because right now I'm here, I'm present. But if you don't know, you don't know, and I can't let the story go down like that. You know what I'm saying? And so I went to Atlanta just trying to do something different. Like went out there for about a year and a half. And while I'm out there, me and Slim hadn't done any music prior to this. We just, I had just been on the road with him a few times. While I'm out there, he hits me up and he's like, man, can you send me some beats? So I sent him some beats, and like I had been around Slim a few times to kind of know like how he kind of approaches music, you know what I'm saying? And like what he may gravitate to before he may gravitate to on some other shit, you know what I'm saying? And so I put together some beats because I'm still in Atlanta. I'm like, okay, well, let me just send the beats that I know will be easy grabs for him. Just so happened, he picked a beat. It was two beats he picked. It was a song that ended up being called Real and a song ended up being called Peaceful. He's working on an album called American King. And he chose those two beats. Peaceful ended up being the single. So it's on 97.9, and like at the same time too, I was doing another project with my boy Hot Peas, and we were having we had a song called Magnificent that was on the Chop Not Slop show being played on Sundays. Right. I'm in Atlanta this whole time though. So I got this song on the Chop Not Slop, and then it's like almost August, maybe early August, and now Peaceful's on the radio. So I got two songs on the radio in Houston. I live in Atlanta. Like, man, this don't even make no sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can stay in Atlanta and try. And Atlanta was working in the sense of like networking, right. but I wasn't anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I could get indoors because I had talent, and people in Atlanta, they're much more open to like give you a shot and it's on you or not to like, you know, stay where you at or like they pass on you. You know what I'm saying? So like that would be my door in. Like I got these beats, they would like the beats, then I get to stay. You know what I'm saying? Establish a relationship. So that worked for me, but I still hadn't really established anything for myself. I'm still trying to figure it out. Like I'm still out there, like, yeah, I'm Donnie from Houston. You know what I'm saying? Like making that introduction to everybody. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, do I stay here and keep trying to figure it out? Or do I go back to Houston and capitalize on these songs I got? Yeah. And so that was fall 2016, August 2016. I came back and like just been here ever since, man. Like, you know, doing records with people, and here we are. Started the podcast, and you know, here we are.
It's crazy. Yeah, we definitely gonna go into the podcast. It's crazy because it's like you was like, man, it ain't popping out here like I wanted to. And then as soon as you went to Atlanta, that's how it works a lot of times, man. But it's funny how your trajectory went, because you, like a lot of artists, we don't always know where this thing is gonna take us. And just to hear that story of how you ended up DJing for Propane, then it transferred over into Slim, then transferred over to doing beats for Slim. You were just climbing up the ladder without necessarily even knowing it. The podcast, to me, is when, and of course, I'm not limiting you because we don't know what's next for you. But to me, that's where I feel like you really hit your stride in this city, because everybody now is familiar with the Donnie Houston podcast. And I think that your show is kind of like the go-to for people in the city of Houston as far as the interviews are concerned, and the people that you've spoken to. It's like, it's valid now, you know. Oh, he was on Donnie Houston. Oh, I heard such and say this on Donnie Houston. You know, these are things that you hear circulating. How did you get into the podcasting? Explain how you decided to say, I know in this day and age, everybody named mama got a podcast. What made you say, this is what I'm gonna do, but not only saying this is what I'm gonna do, how are you able to make it work, even though I know you want to grow further?
Yeah, well, first of all, man, thank you for even saying that, man. Coming from you, like I told you, true, man, like we talking about, you telling me about the Houston Hip Hop Podcast, and you the foundation of Houston Hip Hop, man. So like, I'm beyond honored, you know what I'm saying? But with the podcast, so when I was in college, I was at Sam Houston, and like I told you, I was really kind of messing off, but I fell into a broadcast journalism major. I fell into it because, like I told you, my older sister, she went off to college. I just saw her, like, I ain't had nobody talking to me about school and careers and stuff like that when I was growing up. You know what I'm saying? Like, my old man wasn't around, and on top of all that, he's a mechanic. He was just doing his own thing. So I just didn't have anybody really to guide me and tell me about careers. So I really went to college blind. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was the blind leading the blind, dog. And one of my boys, his dad worked at Channel 13. And so he always had aspirations of kind of like being like his dad. So we getting ready to go to Sam Houston, and he's like, man, I don't know what to major in, because I don't know anything about careers for real. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, man, why don't you do, RTV, radio and television? I'm like, well, okay, well, how much math does it have? You know what I'm saying? Because that's really, I ain't no mathematician. You know what I mean? My thing was like, the one required algebra course, if whatever major has that, you know what I mean? That's where I'm going. Right. Just so happened RTV had one algebra course. Now I'm in journalism, and like I always excelled in English and writing and stuff like that, but it wasn't really necessarily, I wouldn't consider it a passion. It was just like a natural gift. This was writing and all that, so it just became easy to me. And now I'm getting into journalism. Well, not even understanding that I kind of been into what I'm doing, because when I was little, at the same time, like I'm telling you about that music, I'm watching Video Soul with Donnie Simpson and Sherry Carter. I'm watching UMTV Raps with Ed Lover and Dr. Dre. You know what I'm saying? So like this whole idea of sitting down and talking about music and that whole thing, it's been in me. You know what I mean? Just like everything else. Of course, I'm older and I can tell you this. I ain't understanding when it's going on, but this is what it is. So anyway, podcasting comes around. And I had a podcast. My first podcast was in 2011, 12, somewhere up in there. Like podcast junkie, dog. Like when Combat Jack was going on, when Juan Epstein with Cypher Sounds and Peter Rosenberg at Hot 97, like 2009, 10, when that was really, really on fire, I was just into that, super tough. And so I wanted to start one because they were all East Coast voices. Right. Well, in 2013, 2011, 2012, podcasting wasn't as popular, so it wasn't as easily accessible. So you had to like go to Tumblr and like, it was just a weird way of listening to it and then getting people to understand the concept of like, I'm going to listen to somebody I know talk about regular stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just was a hard thing. Well, fast forward to 2016, I moved back to Houston, and while I was in Atlanta, I got onto this guy named B-High. Shout out to B-High, that's my boy now. But B-High was out there doing in Atlanta, and he was telling these stories from what I felt like was someone who was really from the city. I'm like, this is an Atlanta guy telling these hip hop stories, and even if the people who are the guests aren't from Atlanta, he can tell them like, man, this is what I was doing in Atlanta from that time. This is what your impact had here. You know what I mean? That type of stuff. So I was like, man, ain't nobody doing this in Houston. Right. I might want to do that. Well, at the same time, the podcast that I started was more like the first one I started, which is like just commentary, because it was me and my friends, you know what I'm saying? I was really the only like hardcore music person. And I was just like, I don't really want to bring them into this music world. They, whatever. Right. Anyway, nobody want to hear the music guy not talk about music. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it just wasn't really, it wasn't really successful. Like we had a few things happen here and there. Like we did a Johnny Bonnie interview, which led to Jay Prince. And we still didn't stay doing interviews. That was just like little moments. Right. Well, I started out with 5 guys. Then we ended up with 4. Then we got to 4, and I might have 3 most of the time. And it might be 2, and I was just like, all right, well, like I love this. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna stop. So
it's falling off, yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm not gonna stop. And it was always established that the podcast was more so like my baby, quote unquote. You know what I'm saying? Everybody was just down, whatever. So as things fizzled out, Slim had kind of backed away from it. And that was another thing too, why I didn't want to go hard with interviews, because at the time, Slim, I wouldn't say they was like super like hip hop interview based, but you would get that though. You get Willie D, you'll get J-Dog, you'll get these guests in there. And I was like, I don't really want to do what nobody else is doing. Like there's a bunch of shit I've stopped because somebody done started. You know what I'm saying? Right. I just don't want to do the same thing. And so once I got to this place where everybody kind of fell off and it was just me, Slim's podcast had kind of slowed down, and I was like, all right, well, there's a void to be filled, and I need somebody to talk to. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I just started calling in guests, and then it just was like, man, I like this. And then the reception of it was people like, man, I never heard this story before, whatever. And I was like, all right, well, let me do a couple more. You know what I mean? And here we are, I don't know, 100 some, probably almost 200 some episodes later, like, we here.
That's great. I think that's a testament to your ability to draw out the stories from people, because that's one of the things I noticed when I watch your podcast. The people who sit on the black couch, you have a way of drawing out the stories. People tell their story when they in ways that you can watch them on different other interviews, and they don't necessarily do that. So I think that's one of the great qualities that make your show so intriguing to people, man. I mean, because now, let me ask you this question. This is what I want to ask you. So was it tough to get people in the beginning? Because I know now you may have people reaching out to you, hey man, when you gonna bring me on? But how hard was it in the beginning to get some of the guys with the names in the city to come sit down on the couch with you?
Some of them was easy. See, the thing about it, this is what helped me, was that I had met a lot of these guys already as a DJ and producer.
Gotcha.
So it was like, if nothing else, you might come sit down with me, because you might be like, well, shit, he got some jamming beats. Fuck it, he might give me I don't know. They might be like, well, he might give me a beat if I come. I don't know.
Network, yeah.
I don't know what it was, but I know me being in the industry and kind of already, having somebody like a Slim who could co-sign for me, like my character. You know what I'm saying? Maybe stuff like that helped, you know what I mean? But at the same time too, it was still some days where it's like, all right, we getting everything set up, everything, equipment, everything set up, we ready to go, interview is confirmed. 6 o'clock, we supposed to be here. 6:30, 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8, 9, 9:30. Sometimes it's a call, hey man, I ain't gonna make it. Sometimes it's nothing. You know what I'm saying? So I've had them days, man.
Yeah.
Like I've had them days where people tell me they gonna come and I done set up everything. And it was a time, like I have help now, but it was a time where I had no help.
Yeah.
I was recording the video, recording the audio, everything. So I'm making sure everything is set up straight. And I done set up all this equipment for nobody to come. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, I just wake up the next day and hit it hard again. You know what I'm saying?
Again. That's all you can do. Who is the Houston artist that you haven't interviewed that you want, and give me a artist outside of the city that you would love to interview? One or two. Give me two in Houston. If you might have got everybody, but give me two in Houston that you haven't got that you want to get, and one outside of the city that you love to get.
Okay, well, in Houston, number one, Scarface.
You ain't did Face yet?
I ain't did Face yet.
Okay.
I had Willie D. I haven't had Scarface.
Right.
Man, I was trying to do Bushwick. Like when I heard he got sick, I was trying to set it up and ended up like passing away, unfortunately. Before I could do
Right.
But yeah, in the city, Scarface. I'm gonna think about somebody else in the city because for the most part, I'm pretty much Chameleon.
Who?
Chameleon. He ain't here.
Yeah.
Chameleon. So Scarface and Chameleon. I put them two.
No doubt. Who outside the city? Just somebody, could be a mainstream guy, anybody that you say, man, that's my guy. I'd love to sit down with him and talk to him.
Outside of the easy answers, the Jay-Z and the Nas and all that type of stuff, Rick Ross is one. And maybe like Snoop.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That'll be a cool interview. Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. I'm praying that you get you gonna get everybody in the city. I already know. But I'm praying you get all the ones you want to sit down with. Like I say, man, I mean, I think that your podcast has the potential to be like how Beehive got his thing now, you know what I'm saying, and just really pop. I think you had a potential to do that because Houston has such a rich history when it comes to music in general, but rap in particular, that there is outside interest. The interest is not just restricted to within the city limits and within the state. There's people all over the world that are interested in Houston hip hop, man. So I think that might be your baton, to snatch, man, and do your thing. Let me ask you this, as we got Donnie Houston with us tonight, man. I'm interviewing the interviewer tonight, man. I want to ask you this question in terms of the Houston scene, because even though, like you said, you're a young guy, compared to your big brother, but you've seen this thing, I know you real deeply immersed into the screw culture, and you're familiar with all of the different cliques, whether it be Rap-A-Lot, Swisher House, Southpaw Coalition. You're familiar with all of that. What is your take on the current scene in Houston? What do you think is missing? If you could say anything is missing that could improve the scene, and just what's your overall take on?
So I always say like this, right? Like anything major that's come out of Houston, it's been some type of movement. You know what I mean? Like the shit that really lasts, like the lasting impression shit, whether it's a South Park Coalition, or it's a Rap-A-Lot Records, or it's a DJ Screw and a Screwed Up Click, or it's a Michael Watts and a Swisher House. You know what I'm saying? Like there are, and especially, the last two, the major ones is pretty much the identity of the city, with Rap-A-Lot being the foundation. Swisher House and Screw, like that being the last two, like real big, where we like got a whole crop of like artists, you know what I'm saying? They all coming from the same places. Like I think because we're so big, we're so spread out, we're missing a central figure, man.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's a central figure, and I'm not saying everybody got to be under the same label. You know what I mean? I don't know if the DJ setup still works in this day and time. I don't know. But I know when you have a central figure based on the way this city is, you know what I'm saying? Like that's where the successes come from, of everybody being able to kind of say, okay, we're going to go here and be able to get all this. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I know exactly what you're saying. Now that's a great point. I mean, because I never thought about it like that, and especially in terms of just how those cliques, because they almost represent they almost are equivalent to brands, and people gravitate towards a brand. They gravitate towards a logo. They gravitate towards a diverse group of people coming together as one unit. And that's a great angle, man. You know, that I had never even considered. People do get behind it. I was at Murder One's house the other day, and we was watching that Wu-Tang series.
Yeah.
Just how that whole thing developed, and it's the same principle. You got all these different guys coming together as a unit, and for some reason, that's intriguing to people. I heard you mention the DJ dynamic. You know, we old school. You know, even though you younger, you from that, you rooted, you old school guy. And talk about the significance of DJs who actually broke records, because Screw is a guy that comes to mind that, but he was one of many from his era on back that I'm not playing a record just because it's hot or just because somebody paid me. I'm playing this record because as a DJ, I think it's jamming. Nobody else really has it. And I feel like I can be the one to expose it and break that record. Talk about that dynamic and why it doesn't seem to be around anymore, and why DJs, do you think DJs even care about breaking records these days?
DJs care, but I'm gonna be real. Like I can be honest, and it comes down to, for a lot of people, is like, do I break the record or do I keep my job?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like even new records that are mainstream records, if they ain't hit a certain level yet, you know what I mean? You slide them in the club, people gonna be looking like, man, what is it? You know what I'm saying? It's just the times, man. Like everything's just so fast paced, so right now, whatever, you know what I mean? Like it makes it very hard to do that. And unfortunately, like, you know, you talk about like a Screw or something like that. Like back then, you know, that he would be considered a source. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, you know, everybody got a source.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You can pick up your phone and play whatever you want, versus like, okay, I got to catch what's on the radio, or I have to go to the store and buy it, or I got to hope that it pops up on this guy, DJ Screw's tape or Clue's tape or whoever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just the internet that opened that whole thing up now.
Are there any DJ, right? I'm just, I guess out of my frustration, like that would have the courage to just be like, I'm not going to adhere to the industry way of like, okay, I know I DJ at this radio station. I know let me say this. It's a difference between an actual DJ and a radio personality. Not the same thing. So guys who would say, well, man, you know, I'm a DJ, like Walter D. Walter D is a DJ. But if Walter D is working for a radio station, then I guess, you know, there'll be certain rules and regulations and playlists that he have to abide by. But I mean, just like a hood guy, just to just say, man, or anybody that may be on the uprise and say, man, I'm gonna still do my job, but I'm gonna break these records the best way I can in my spare time. Is that possible, or the two just can't happen at the same time?
I don't want to say it ain't possible, but I can tell you that it's very, very hard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard, man. And it ain't like back then where like rap was new. So, you know, you hearing a new song, it's like, shit, this could be the next.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? Now it's like, this is another person with a song. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
You know.
And there's so many artists out today that it's really, you sifting through just thousands and thousands and thousands. And the great point you made, like, it was only a handful of artists to really choose from at that time, man. What are you planning moving forward? What are some of the moves you getting ready to make? Or you said, how do you plan on what's the next step for Donnie Houston moving forward?
Man, right now it's really just trying to grow the brand and the platform, because it's like, you know, I appreciate, you know, being looked at as like, you know, you got to go to Donnie Houston, or this is a platform or whatever. That's cool, but at the same time, like, you still got Drink Champs. You know what I'm saying? You got you got these other things that everybody is watching. So it's like, okay, how do I get to that level? You know what I'm saying? Like how does that happen? So that's really what I'm trying to do right now. You know what I mean?
No, I think it's coming, man. I think it's coming. Like I say, you have really found your pocket, and it's about growing that pocket. Couple more things before we get out of here, man. So do you have like mixtapes that you've done in the past, or is there any old school Donnie Houston tapes that people say, oh, I didn't know he had? Because I saw you, I don't know how old this was, but I saw you DJing somewhere and you was doing tricks and stuff on the turntable, something like that. So,
Yeah.
so that lets me know, okay, when you mention your origins as a show DJ, you know, that's important. So have you ever done mixtapes, and is any of that stuff floating around if you have?
Man, it's not floating around, but I've done them. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've done them, man. Oh my God. Since 15, man. Like I still got cassettes from when I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
DJ don't get rid of nothing.
No. I ain't gonna get rid of it. And I was the friend back in the day when we would make our tapes, you know what I'm saying? We were kids, like people like, man, let me dub. Like, nah, you can't dub my tape. not cause I want to be that guy, but it's just like, I know you ain't gonna hold on to this tape like I'm gonna hold on to
right.
And that's why I still got the tape 25 years later. You know what I'm saying? 25 years later.
Hey man, probably in pristine condition, man.
Yeah.
Donnie Houston, man. Hey, bro, I appreciate you so much coming on, man. And you know, I thank you for all that you've done for me, because you know, people have come on and said, man, I saw you on Donnie Houston. You know, because like I say, your name, your podcast is that go-to in terms of, you know, interviewing the local artists. And what I really respect about you and your platform is that your show is not always necessarily centered around talking to people who are household names in the city. You know, you go into the cracks and you'll pull this guy out that people know, but they don't necessarily know, but they're connected to the people that we know. So, I mean, just props to you, bro. And any social media thing you want to give out, feel free to do that.
For sure. Man, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm Donnie Houston, letter I, the letter M, DONNIEHOUSTON. Follow Donnie Houston Podcast on Instagram. Subscribe to Donnie Houston TV on YouTube. And yeah, that's it, man. I appreciate everybody who watches, you know what I'm saying? Everybody who just support anything I'm going on. K-Rino, you know what I mean? Like I said, it's a blessing to even have this dialogue and this relationship with you, man. So I appreciate it.
Double salute, bro. Donnie Houston, y'all know what it is, man. Support this brother. Let's make him huge, man. Let's make him as big as all of the big ones, man. Straight up, man. One love to your family. Talk to you soon. Hit me if you need me. You know what time it is.
For sure.
All right, peace.